And people, I think, are going to have to realize that we live in an era of change. Okay. Now, I personally love change because I go crazy if I'm not doing something different all the time, or learning something, or reading something, or whatever. I go nuts if I have to sit somewhere and not do anything. Okay. And so change, I like change. I can adapt to it, but a lot of people can't, or don't even know that they can. It's going to change until it works. And that's the problem, is how much change is it going to take before it does work? Okay. And what is that? Is that a reduced population? Is it a new way of, eating? Is it a new way of growing food? What is that? What is that new way that's going to work? And I don't think we really completely know yet where that is.
Looks like Joe hasn't gotten the virus or the economy under control. And now we have inflation and cron cases skyrocketing. And do you think the stock market will trade higher in the next 3 years than it did from 2016 to 2020? Economists are comparing our current inflationary environment to the inflation era of the 1970s. Gold was up 20x, silver 37x in that 10-year period. Learn how simple it is to add physical gold and silver to your portfolio ahead of the rise in inflation and predicted price rises. Patriot Gold Group has the no fee for life IRA, where your IRA or 401k can be in physical gold and silver. Call 1-800-356-4470 and get a free investor guide today. And with the knowledge that Patriot Gold Group is Consumer Affairs' top-rated gold IRA dealer from 2016 to present, click on the link in the description box below for more information. And now on with the video. And good afternoon, everyone. Today with me, Dennis DeLaurier. And then greenhouses and getting out almost instant gardens by putting grow bags together. So that's what Dennis's side's about. Me, I'm going to dovetail into that with the fertilizer and the herbicide shortages, where we're going with planetary alignments that are going to cause magnetic disturbances on our planet, i.e. more volcanic eruptions, stranger weather with jet streams, cloud cells. So hopefully, today's talk between he and I will give you some really valuable information in terms of getting ready. And remember, if you want to go to TheGSMPrepper.com, and remember that GSM's grand solar minimum. So Dennis, I appreciate you spending your time.
But everybody's going to have to pitch in. It's kind of like when I look back on my grandparents and my great grandparents. Okay, is my grandparents, they had a garden, they had a cistern. Now this is in modern times with telephones and electricity and gas and everything else. Okay. But they had a cistern. They had a pig. Okay. They had a garden. They had chickens. Okay. They had a big black 35-gallon old pot that they boiled water in with lye soap and washed all the sheets and everything in, and the underwear and everything. Okay. They had a wash tub. Okay. Well, none of that took electricity. Nothing. Okay, so you could get your water, you could grow your food, you could get your eggs, and you could eat a chicken every once in a while. And you had a pig. And by the way, my grandfather also had a smokehouse. Okay, so he had smoked ham and bacon and stuff like that. Okay, well, that was my grandparents. Now, my great-grandparents, it would have been worse. Okay, they would have had to live in a world where, their grocery stores didn't have much.
Frontier stores.
Yeah, frontier stores. You absolutely had to take care of yourself. You had to have good water. You had to take care of your health. You had to make sure you didn't cut yourself. And if you did, you did something about it. There weren't hospitals and ambulances and 911 and police protection and stuff like that. Well, we may go back to that. Okay, so that's how you need to think about what's coming. Okay, and all that can be mitigated by community. That's the answer. And if there's no community, then you're on your own. And boy, that's tough. That's tough to do on your own. Okay. I don't see a lot of people. Now, most people don't have the, what is it, constitution or whatever, the fortitude, that's the word. And they don't have that. It's lost. Okay, we've lost that. We walk around and run into telephone poles with cell phones. Okay, that pretty well sums up society. Okay, we've always had grocery. I mean, I look at myself. I can't remember when there wasn't a grocery store. Okay, I can remember when we had crank telephones, but I used to get sent to the grocery store on my bicycle to pick up stuff at the grocery store. Okay, so I never lived in a time when everything you had to do was for yourself. You had to do it yourself. But I look back on my relatives. You know, my in South Dakota, I had relatives that were farmers. Okay, I saw how they grew things, how they did things. I saw my grandparents, how they did things, and I learned from that. I remembered all that. Okay, and you know, we didn't have pesticides or Roundup in the garden. You went out and you weeded the garden, and if there were bugs, you picked them up and you fed them to the chickens. Okay, you know that, and so I don't know. Anyway, that's you know, like I say, I think what we're seeing coming with shortages, I think, you know, a lot of those are man-made. We're inflicting it. We're shooting ourselves in our feet, in our foot. Okay, and a lot of this stuff. Okay, and a lot of it is going to be because of the grand solar minimum cooling and other things like, you know, our magnetic poles shifting and weakening, and you know, our jet streams going nuts and all that other, you know, all the stuff that we could spend another 3 or 4 hours talking about if we wanted to. And so yeah, I see fertilizer and weed, you know, things that you use for weeds is, I guess there's was there pre-emergence type things you can spray, you know, that kill things as they just pop up, and all these other
that's
things.
all Roundup Ready GMO type of thing. You know, you're talking pre and post emergence there. So that activator, you know, that enzyme activator that's inside, like Roundup, for example, those seeds are targeted for. And this is the thing, again, you know, this could be the wild card here. Getting the seed in the field to grow it on what we consider a seed in the field. But a lot of those seeds going in on the mega biz there, on the agribiz that has, you know, 100,000 acres, 50,000 acres, 17,000 is a small farm.
Yeah.
They're using GMO activated ready seeds. So if you don't have that Roundup, those seeds don't activate. So you might have all the seed supply in the world, but if you don't have the chemical to activate it, then, you know, we're talking to a whole nother level up here of crop losses.
Yeah.
Or I shouldn't say losses, I should reduce yields would be a better term.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm sure some of that'll come up, but not as much as it used to.
Oh, no, not even close, you know, because they use it. And then the weed suppression on that and the pre-emergence, what you're talking about.
Right.
Who knows what's going to happen moving forward? Because it seems like the USDA is pushing farmers from chemical fertilizers to manures and different kind of compost. Well, that's already been kind of sourced out. There's really nothing left.
No.
Yeah. And I'm trying to get some compost and things like, you know, 20, 40 tons. And I'm having a little difficulty sourcing that. And then you move right over into the herbicides, and they want to have everybody kind of shift away from the Roundup and the Accent Q, and those other things are going real low right now, into those different group chemicals and try to mix them to get the same effect that Roundup would do. Because, you know, those other group chemicals, if you don't know, they only affect a single metabolic function of the plant. So some will inhibit chlorophyll production, others will inhibit amino acid production. So then, and then the way you mix the chemicals too, you know, you need to mix them in a certain order, but then you're going to have to reapply because they're not as strong as things like glyphosate. So when they start to do, you know, the US, and then they're saying you can only do it on small weeds. There's no more large weeds. Before they used to broadcast on large weeds too. They're like, you have to pre-prepare your fields, go in and knock out all the large weeds first, then come through and then apply sparingly, no less.
Yeah, exactly.
So how much extra fuel and time is that going to be for a farmer with, you know, 50,000 acres to go through and knock down the large weeds that they're going to be planting in areas when they used to just roll through and broadcast spray across the board there. So now the USDA wants them to go target the larger weeds that were left over, or, you know, ironweed, for example, is a super rough one to get through, and go cut those down first, whatever method you use, and then apply, versus just applying because large weeds they're trying to retrain farmers' brains that large weeds are you can't do anything with small weeds only. And you got to play chemistry set and go mix a bunch of stuff to try to replicate what glyphosate did. So even this first year of trying to figure this whole mix out of the ratios, what types of, because grasses, again, most of those group chemicals aren't specifically targeted for grasses. They're more, those leaves with big leaves on them, broad leaves. They're not grasses like you're talking about, straight up and down grass plants.
Right.
So there's going to be a lot of mixing and matching and learning curves and mistakes and finding better ways to do things here as we come through this first year. But I think hopefully they would have figured out the efficiencies and gotten it wired down by year 2, which is 2023. If you're going to look there, the news landscape, I'm going to give you a specific word here. Look for the word anhydrous. You've probably never heard that word before. A lot of you out there, it's a type of fertilizer, and urea. These are going to start making the mainstream MSNBC news conversations here. Coming up at the end of the month into February, right when everybody's getting ready to plant. So how long is it going to be before the fertilizer shortages hit the mainstream news like MSNBC, and mom and pop and mama bear understands that, food prices are going to double again, and wait, then that might not be available, and we're going to get a lot of reductions here from not a lot of fertilizers. At what point is that rollover panic point going to hit where suddenly, it's regular shopping, and then within a week, the stores are stripped because everybody understands you get it now because you're not going to get it later. We're coming into something like this around May of this year. The awareness of the chemical and the fertilizer shortages on how that's going to push agriculture yields down is going to be fully aware and probably water cooler talk no later than May of this year. And then how will that, shift society in the way people behave? I don't know. Well, there are some carryover stocks, but how much can you dig into those before you just drive prices to the moon? Are you talking $20 corn?
Well, I think we're going to places where we've never gone before. Okay, I think isn't that what Star Trek says? Going places. I forget what it was. Anyway, exploring things and meeting new people we've never met before or seen before. That's kind of where society is going right now. Okay, we're going from one crazy thing to another, and people, I think, are going to have to realize that we live in an era of change. Okay, now I personally love change because I go crazy if I'm not doing something different all the time, or learning something, or reading something, or whatever. I go nuts if I have to sit somewhere and not do anything. Okay, and so change, I like change. I can adapt to it, but a lot of people can't, or don't even know that they can. And I think that's where we're headed. We're headed to, new frontiers, so to speak, where it's going to change until it works. And that's the problem, is how much change is it going to take before it does work? Okay, and what is that? Is that a reduced population? Is it a new way of, eating? Is it a new way of growing food? What is that? What is that new way that's going to work? And I don't think we really completely know yet where that is. And like I say, the only thing I can recommend to anybody that's worried about something like that is, do the best you can. Take care of yourself, look after yourself. Get a community. Grow your own food, take care of your health, lose some weight, exercise, start a new business. Okay. All my life, I always went into new businesses. Okay. I was a technical writer for a while. I was an electronic technician. I was even a janitor at one time when things were tough. I had to go out and get a job cleaning toilets. But I knew that was just the next step into something that I really wanted to do. Okay. And I think that's what we're going to have to do now. People are going to have to clean the toilets and do things they don't want to do until they get to some place where they want to be. And if they don't, they're going to quickly, find out that there's not going to anybody that's going to come in and bail them out. And they're just going to be a burden on everybody else. Okay. And, to me, that's the worst thing I think I could ever be to somebody, is be a burden to them. Okay. that I couldn't contribute, that I couldn't make their life better by my efforts. Okay. And, unless we start thinking like that, there's going to be a lot of people that just won't make it. Okay. They're going to want the government to keep sending those checks, and they're going to continue to want to go down to Walmart and buy the pasta that's not there anymore. And, that sort of stuff, and drink the beer and eat the pizza and use their cell phone and watch Netflix. That's not life. At least that's not my life anyway, that I'd ever want. And so that's what I think we're going to have to do. We're going to have to go through a lot of things, and we're going to finally have to find out what works. Okay. And I'm all open to that. And that's kind of why I write my blog. Okay. I was always looking for new ways of thinking, new ways of doing things, awakening people, saying, hey, look, there's more to life than, getting stuck on traffic on Interstate 35 every day. That's a horrible life. I've often done that. When I was my microgreen business, I used to run around in my truck delivering restaurants microgreens. And it seems like every light in the world was set to make me stop. Okay. And I'm going, do I really want to be doing this? What about that hour I spend every day just sitting behind my car, burning hydrocarbons? Is that really what I wanted? And I finally came to the conclusion it wasn't. Anyway, that's kind of where I am
now. Pay your global carbon tax, you polluter.
Yeah, they're going to get out. Well, they can't tax me anymore for that. That's for sure.
You're going to have to pay a non-usage tax because you no longer want to drive an automobile.
There you go. That'll solve it. Well, I often laugh. I'm going that, have you ever seen these children that are growing up nowadays? I said, they're going to be our leaders, but there's not an app for that. There's not an app on the phone for being a leader. So,
hey, before we sign off here, Dennis, give me a 2022 prediction, because my whole thing is fertilizer shortages, herbicide shortages. It will hit around May on the global news feed. And at that point, there's going to be some sort of panic trip where everybody's going to understand, and they're not going to buy double or triple. They're going to be buying 5X, because if they realize if they buy it in May, it'll be 50% cheaper than if they buy it in August or November. There's going to be a huge run, because, I'm looking at it the same way. Things you buy now are always going to be cheaper than they will next month. Like, we're just in this point now where anything you buy, you're getting at a discount right now.
Right.
So that's my kind of projection, is moving out. And, I have a whole bunch of videos on how I think people might react, governments might react.
Right.
But what do you see for 2022 for the rest of it? Any timelines that you see moving out for awareness, people's behavior, governments, economy, anything?
Well, I can see a lot of things we probably don't want to talk about, but the things I do want to talk about is that I think that people are going to see what my wife is starting to see now. Anything that you buy now is going to be cheaper now than it will ever be. In fact, there's going to be some things that are available now that will not be available now. And I think what we're going to see is continuation of that. Okay. We're going to see less and less things that cost more and more. So I see prices just slowly increasing. I see fewer and fewer of the things that people want being available is in quantity. Okay. The prices are going to go up. The quantities available to buy are going to be down. And it's going to end up like my father-in-law said. Bless him, he's dead now. We asked him, well, what did you do during the Depression? And he said, I worked. He said, I had a lot of money actually during the Depression. He said, there was nothing to buy. There was nothing to buy. And I think that's where we're headed. Eventually, we're going to get to the point where there's nothing to buy. And if there is something to buy, it's going to be so expensive, we can't buy it. And I see that maybe, 20% more, 25% more this year than last year. I'm seeing a continual breakdown in our infrastructure of, being able to deliver food, this just in time stuff, the JIT thing, where, the grocery store, you go in the back of the grocery store, there's nothing back there. They're not stocking inventory in the back of a grocery store. It doesn't exist. Okay. That sucker comes in a truck, and the next day it's out on the shelves, and it's just in time. And so now the just in time isn't, I don't know. I don't really know why I can't buy pasta anymore. Why it's off the shelf almost. There's none there. And the guy what if you go and talk to people that work there, they say, well, the truck just didn't arrive. The truck didn't arrive with the food. So there's no pasta out there. So what's causing that? Is it
I got an answer.
Yeah. Okay.
40% reduction in durum wheat production this year globally.
Yeah.
So the demand has far outstripped the supply. I mean, carryover stocks are long gone. It's like what they grow now for durum wheat is all they get. So they're, it's really hard to get accurate numbers because they don't want to put that kind of negative news out. But let's just say 40% global reduction in durum wheat this year. So if it's like that this last harvest season, and we're coming in with less fertilizers, less herbicides, you can almost forecast out that next year, there's even going to be less durum wheat than there is this year, which was already 40% down. So knock another 10% off, let's say half. At that point, you really do get into a premium market where those durum wheat that you talked about in reference that are in the nice, pretty boxes and the harder pastas, different colored, more deeply rich colors from the grain that you would get in that kind of cellophane wrapped pasta. You can definitely see the coloration difference. It's all going to be premium pricing. So you either buy it at a higher price or you don't get it, but it's going to be, again, offered to the highest bidder, the premium price. And a lot of people are going to get priced out of the market. And if you can't get the, $5 couple pound of pasta in the regular cellophane, then where does that leave most people? Rice. Are we going to go back to the ancient grains, amaranth, spelt, millet, sorghum? Oh, wait, you can't really find that. It's not such a quote unquote commercial crop where you're just going in buying bags of millet. When's the last time you were able to go into a store and get a bag of spelt or a bag of millet?
Yeah.
Nah, it's harder to find. You can find it. It's not unfindable.
No, it's not at grocery stores much. Might find a little bag of it somewhere.
Yeah, like Costco had amaranth and organic amaranth. I think it was a 5-pound bag. You could do some microgreens with that, but those things are super, super tiny. I've done it also with chia seeds. You get this amazing carpet. You got to cut so tight, you barely even get the leaves off that. You got to leave a lot of. But
yep, that's amaranth.
Yeah, and chia seeds as well. They're so fine and so just really succulent, and you got to cut super fine. You got to have a really good knife to get the chia microgreens off the tray. But where do we go from here? Premium pricing and everything that's gone short already in terms of ag is going to probably continue the same trend line. So I just can't see a big increase in durum wheat next year unless the price goes absurd and then people switch crops and move into that. Because a lot of farmers are moving away from corn and soy. They're either going to take the prevent plant or they can't get the fertilizers to go in and do corn. So they're going to shift off to something else.
Right.
What would that be? I'm not sure. Sorghum takes a lot of fertilizer.
Yeah, it does.
Soybeans take a lot of fertilizer. So these farmers talking about switching crops and moving over, Brazil, the corn, I'm going to make a bold call here too. Corn production in Brazil is going to drop off a cliff because they're moving over to beans. Yep. They're moving to beans. So just the corn production in general, globally, I know a lot of it's used for ethanol. Okay, you could take that away, but the animal feed, we really need that. If you want to have any milk, if you want to have any chicken eggs or chicken on your plate, or you want to have some pig, you're going to need corn. That's a main, feed ingredient in there. Milk, need it. Baby infant formula, need that. Whey protein powders, need it. Do you want to have cheese? You need the grains to feed the cow to get the milk to produce those products. Without the corn this year, and a lot of farmers are going to follow in the Northern Hemisphere, they're not going to plant the corn. So there's going to be a massive corn reduction. Soybeans are going to be reduced. So are we going to go to the bean planet? Is this going to be planet bean by the time we're into, because it doesn't take nearly the input? Is everybody going to switch over to beans? And then what? I mean, are our diets going to change that much into more of a black bean, pinto bean, cow pea, black-eyed pea diet where people are going to move over to that for proteins versus, and rice will still be pretty abundant instead of what we consider as those traditional soybeans, corn, that sort of thing. I don't know. I'm just forecasting out what Brazil did. I think the world's going to follow. Is going to be massive bean production and lack of corn production.
Yeah. Well, I'm seeing, the government or the power that be, I guess, whoever whoever those folks are.
The pile of, you know, what to be.
Yeah. Yeah. They're pushing, plant-based eating. I am a plant-based eater. Okay. I am a almost, 98, 95%, vegan type of eater. But I did that for health reasons. I love meat. I had a heart attack and 5 bypasses, and I don't want to go back there. Okay. And if you want to go back there, you just eat tons of fat and meat, and you'll end up back there. Okay. You need a balanced diet, and a lot of people don't. So I think you're right. I think we're going to see a lot of protein from things like you just mentioned. Okay. As food, and it's going to be processed too. You're going to have your burger, your veggie whatever, breakfast, your veggie milk, your veggie God knows what. Okay. And it's going to come from things like that are easy to grow. And, here in Texas this year, we grow a lot of spring wheat. I guess they plant it in the fall and it comes up in spring. Well, yeah, and that's in West Texas this year. It came up and then it froze. There's been I see Canada going offline pretty soon. They had cold and drought and rain. I mean, they had it all, which is typical of a grand solar minimum. That's why people don't know what's happening. And then they'll say, "Oh, it's hot," or "Oh, it's been cold," or "Gee, it's been rainy," or it's been a drought. Well, yeah, that's what happens. That's what John Casey said it would happen. And of course, that's I guess John is still around, right?
I've been trying to contact him. I haven't had any success in the last couple of months.
I really miss him. I think he was a wonderful fellow. And I just loved listening to him. It's just good common sense guy, an engineer. So, but no, I think that's where it was going. You're right. South America, Brazil, and all that, they've had some really bad problems. And, I guess Australia doesn't even export wheat anymore. And, we've had, like you say, the Durham wheat problem. And, as things go crazier and crazier, the further north you are. And, I kind of wish we would have global warming. I'd take that any day over global cooling. Okay. And, we have been warm for, we live in, the Pleistocene ice age, and there's warm periods during it. And we've just coming out of that, and it was wonderful. We fed 8 billion people. You could grow food far, far north than you could, 100, 200 years ago. So global warming's been great. Okay. And, CO2 is plant food. I can imagine what your farm would look out there, David, if you could double your CO2 out there in the field. Wouldn't that be great?
Or triple it.
Oh, golly, or triple it. Yeah, but they want to put $1 billion machines out there and suck it up and bury it so you can't use it. Which is
I'll take it. Just put that machine next to my place and just dump it over here.
Yeah, and dump it over in your farm, right? Yeah, that'd be great. So anyway, I don't know. I think the world's gone insane, and I think it's planned insanity. Okay, I don't think the world has really gone insane. I think it's packaged insanity. Okay, and we live in a world of change, and so the more insane you can make it, the more stress is put on people. I don't know what's going to happen, but I know one thing: we better get ready. I know that much.
I hope you got something out of our conversation here. I've been talking with Dennis DeLaurier over at TheGSMPrepper.com. Make sure you go over to the site, see what kind of information's there that's usable in your life and mine, and how do we get ourselves more ready for these changes. Dennis, I think that's going to be a lot for people to absorb. I'm glad you came on today, and for me too, especially when I'm editing the videos. I learn more when I'm editing, because when I'm in the process of it, I'm trying to think of responses or how to phrase something. So listening to it as a listener is a completely different experience. So I'll be taking notes myself as I'm editing through the videos here.
Anyway, I appreciate you having me on, David. And